Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. This video is going to be all about version update 1.9 and all of the new information that dropped about it today. This update will be available on the evening of June 27th, going into reset on the 28th, and you'll have until the 29th to install it, after which it will go out automatically to all players. It's awesome to see that we'll also be getting a free 10-fold voucher with this update. This is a tradition that has gone on since the beginning of the game. Whenever there's a big version update, we do get a 10-fold voucher, and although updates are less frequent these days, it's nice to see that we're still getting one, and I know it's welcome for me, and I'm sure it'll be welcome for many of you who want to do any last-minute summoning on the Wedding Bells showcase. All of that said, there are a lot of juicy morsels in the actual update details here, so let's go ahead and take a look at those now. The first thing that we have is Augments Added. This is a follow-up to a tidbit that we got on the last What's Ahead for Dragalia Lost in May, which basically said that by the end of June, there would be some additional way to upgrade adventurers. Now we find out that it'll be possible to further upgrade adventurers, but also weapons, dragons, and wyrmprints using certain items known as augments. These can increase HP and strength up to plus 50, and the feature will unlock after completing Chapter 9 of the campaign, which will release at reset on July 15th. So within this piece of information, this news update, we actually got a release date for Chapter 9, which is kind of funny that that's not the lead piece of information and piece of news here, but that's definitely one of the things I am most hyped about. I want to see how a certain two characters, White Sparrows, follow up in the story. I also want to see what Yuden's sister, Shell, is like, and those are all things that I think we can expect in Chapter 9, but we'll have to see what it actually entails. I'm really excited for it, and it's just right around the corner in a couple weeks. As for augments themselves, I am a little bit disappointed. I did blow my expectations up. It's probably no surprise by now if you saw how hyped I was for Mercurial Gauntlet, and so I'm going to wait and see. I want to give it a chance, like I should have probably given to Gauntlet since I ended up liking it, but looking at this, it just seems like pure stat creep. Basically plus 50 in each stat to an adventurer, their two wyrmprints, the dragon, and the weapon. And on the dragon and weapon, of course, since those can be elementally attuned, this will actually amount to an even greater increase. It'll be a 75 stat increase on each of those, so those should be of a higher priority. It looks like we're also getting 8 new materials from this, basically fortifying and amplifying materials across each of these item categories. So for weapons, wyrmprints, adventurers, and dragons respectively, we have a bunch of these. It looks like for adventurers, they're also called crystals, just like the level up crystals. For wyrmprints, they're maybe called gems, but it gets cut off. And for dragons, they're called dragon scales. And of course, the fortifying ones, we presume, increase HP, and the amplifying ones increase strength. Now, you can actually see on these adventurers, dragons, wyrmprints, weapons, that there's a little plus number on the character portrait or on the equipment portrait. And looking at this, that's actually the sum of the stat increase. Because this Leviathan right here, it has a plus 7, and those stats compared to a normal level 80 Leviathan, basically those stats are 2 HP higher and 5 strength higher than a normal Leviathan. So it's just adding the total increase in stats, and that's the number that you're seeing there. So because you could get plus 50 in each stat, this means that each of your pieces of gear, or the adventure itself, could get up to plus 100, which I really hope this is something that we can farm easily. I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest, because my hope was we'd get something more specific to different characters, maybe even if it rolled out in a staggered way, like power-ups or extra mana unbindings for older, weaker characters that would kind of bring them to par with some of the more recent stuff, like a buff for Azalith, a buff for Xainfried. Those are the kind of things I had really hoped for. However, this looks like it's just going to be a uniform stat increase for everyone and everything that you have, so there's nothing stopping you here, unlike with, say, Dragon Flowers and Fae, there's nothing stopping you from just applying these materials to characters who are already the most powerful. So that's kind of a bummer to me. It basically just means that the characters that are already the strongest are going to remain the strongest. If these are given out in abundance, then it's just a uniform power increase for everything in your roster. Probably takes time to farm, and so that will kind of provide another form of content while you're slowly grinding that up. At least it's something else that you have to grind up. If it's something more scarce, though, then you actually might have to pick and choose. But unfortunately, if it's scarce, I could see that also leading to a lot of players making more meta decisions with it, picking the characters that are just the strongest in raw power and furthering their strength. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that if that's how people want to play the game, but I'm just a little bit skeptical of this, have to be honest here. Raw stat increases are not the most exciting way of upgrading adventurers in my opinion, but the fact that they use the word upgrade, which refers to leveling up specifically in this game, and not unbinding or promoting, I guess this was to be expected that it would be something that's purely about stats. Like I said though, Chapter 9, that's by far the most hype point on that for me. The next thing we get here is player level maximum is going to be raised to level 200. This will actually take place at 1 a.m. on June 28th, around then. It's good to see this maximum increase, but some of the later levels right now, between 140 and 150 for instance, you need a lot of XP to actually level up, so this could be a sufficient change for like a year in terms of additional levels and how slowly they would build, because the amount of experience you need increases greatly at higher levels. I do know a lot of you out there are already at level 150. I'm at level 141. I don't refresh my stamina or wings ever, so that's probably why mine is on the lower side. But for those of you out there who are at level 150, I'm sure this is a welcome change. It means your stamina cap is going to be increased. It looks like right here you can see that it goes up to 138, and also with every subsequent level, you're going to get 50 Wormite. You're going to increase your friends list, which I found to be important as I want to get as many of you on my friends list as I possibly can. So I think this is a welcome change. It's going to be a while for me personally before it starts to matter though, since I still have 9 levels to go to 150, and I could see that taking a long time. So after that, we get a more relevant change, facility level maximum raised. The maximum level for the various elemental altars and dojos will be raised to 35. This will also apply around that same time on June 28th at reset. You can see in the artwork here, or the images of the Halidom, altars looking really sweet. You also get all of the dojos in their upgraded forms, and they look amazing too. So you have the Lance Dojo, the Sword Dojo, Bow, then you have next to it the Wand Dojo, the Blade Dojo, and then above the Axe and Staff Dojos, and then over on the left you have what I think is the Dagger Dojo. I love how you see each weapon in the dojo, and honestly these just look really cool. They look huge, but I guess they take up the same number of tiles. I'm kind of dreading this, to be honest. I feel kind of similarly about this as I do toward Augments. Basically, this just increases the range of power level that we could expect from future quests. It means that there's a wider gap between the maximum power and the weakest power or weakest strength and HP that people might have. And so this kind of scares me. On one hand, I guess if they want to make harder content and want to do it through stats mostly and not mechanics, it has to be done at some point. But I'm feeling a little anxiety, I guess, as more of a completionist type person, that I was so hyped for double IO to be so close to maxing out my dojos at level 30. And now, thinking that I have to get everything to level 35 eventually is just daunting. It is good though. I mean, my smith worms are going to have work after this, hopefully. These level ups will probably take a long time, so I don't expect that we're going to get another change, another increase in max level for a while. It is probably a good idea to start saving materials for this so that once this change happens, you can start your builds and level ups right away. Another important detail that we got on this though is right in the corner here. If you zoom in, you can see a character who is not currently an adventurer in the game. So you can probably tell just by looking at her, but if not, this is speculated to be, and it pretty much looks identical to, Ramona. Ramona is, of course, the crafting character, the blacksmith, who's on the crafting tab. We basically just get introduced to her by Ronzel through the tutorial about weapon crafting, and she's kind of never explained. Her presence on that tab of the game, which is one of the most frequently visited tabs every day, is never really explained. We get some details about her and her two sisters on the Sisters of the Anvil Wormprint, and those are some of the characters who aren't yet represented as adventurers. I actually forgot about that Wormprint when I was thinking about how Serena got added to the game and there weren't that many characters missing. There has been artwork since, I believe, launch of what looks like a 5-star portrait of Ramona. So this could mean Ramona is coming up on a future showcase. A lot of people think it might be a gala showcase, but I'm of the opinion that she doesn't have enough relevance to the story right now to be a gala character, so I think she might just be like a random 5-star, maybe on a filler banner in between events. That's kind of what I think, but if she is a gala character, people are pretty hyped since as a blacksmith, they think that maybe she could have the ability to equip weapons from different classes, and that would be really, really sweet if so. So that would be a gimmick worthy of being in the gala, definitely. I don't know, either way, I'm kind of hyped to see her there, and just the fact that we're getting these characters rounded out. We're still missing Nina, who's the shopkeeper, although she's appeared in some of the Dragalia Life comics, so I'd love to see her added to the game as well one day. Maybe Faye will finally add an Ana alt as far as merchant alts go, and then we'll be able to get Nina ourselves, since she has been missing in that game for a long time. So hopefully we'll get Nina and Ramona both sooner than that. Anyway, though, then we get some details on improved displays for event quests. This is all just quality of life stuff, but it's very welcome. There's going to be a little icon now that tells you whether you already collected your daily bonus or not. And I know for me, I always have to scroll down and check the Dragon Trials and IO because I always forget whether I did it or not, so I'm glad that's going to be there to make it easier. We're also going to see easily which difficulty, which ruins has expert difficulty available. Also good, since that's something I often forget and I have to poke around a few times to actually get to the right ruins. And finally, we also see here, it will tell you what conditions you need to meet to unlock various special events and various game modes. This is also really good, as I get a lot of comments on these videos. Where are void battles? I don't know how to unlock void battles, or what's Imperial Onslaught, or what are the High Dragon Trials even. And this is now very explicit about what you need to do to actually unlock them, which I think is also great. Then we have some quality of life adjustments on the Mercurial Gauntlet. Basically just a button to view endeavors, which I think is nice. They actually formatted a really nice infographic for the Mercurial Gauntlet endeavors. It's a lot clearer than, say, the Jumpstart endeavors or the other normal endeavors that are there when you start the game, so I like that they made that graphic, and hopefully that's what you'll see when you hit view endeavors. Another change we're getting is an improvement in Blazon Summon usability. So previously you had to do Blazon Summons 10 by 10 until you exhausted all of your summons. Now you can perform more Blazon Summons at once, which, if you're somebody who saves these until the end of the event, should make your life way, way easier. So this is a pretty big quality of life change and something that's been requested a lot. Another thing that we can hypothesize about here is the fact that this actually mentions Shishimai. Shishimai was part of the raid that happened, New Year's Tidings, that went alongside Eastern Emissaries, which is Ieyasu's banner. That would be an awesome raid to actually have rerun, because that raid dropped a ton of rare loot, since it was kind of a New Year's celebration, and essentially the raid boss was a glorified piñata. That's a bit of a crude way of putting it, but he did have a gift basket which you had to destroy to get a lot of special drops. So that was a really fun raid battle. It had some great music. It had an awesome boss battle against 3 characters from that banner, which was really cool. And one of the best welfare units ever, Botan, who has a TM buff, she can inflict bleed. She is a really great Shadow Lance. So if this actually is rerun, that would be really good for new players. Maybe it's something they're thinking about doing between now and the anniversary. So after that, we get some balance adjustments, and all of this is pretty much about Imperial Onslaught. One of the common complaints or issues people faced was Imperial Onslaught gives bronze, silver, and gold coins to upgrade your dojos, and eventually you hit something a lot of people call Silvergate, where you don't have enough silver coins to continue leveling up your dojos. And if you make it past that, you'll often hit another thing called Goldgate, which is when you run out of gold coins to level up your dojos. So one of the biggest things that people were requesting was a treasure trade for these. They're actually technically called Diurnal Aureus, Argentus, and Ias, but I just call them bronze, silver, and gold Diurnal coins. So there's going to be a treasure trade. Be aware that you will run out of silvers and you will run out of golds, both. So if you're doing any treasure trading, you probably want to trade the bronze up instead of trading gold down to silver, because eventually you will need a lot of those golds. So just do keep that in mind. Another good thing is that the drop rate is also going to be increasing for the Diurnal Aureus, and I believe that is the gold level material. It's going to increase in Expert and Master. Because the drop rate is increasing for that, there is some possibility you might trade that down in the future, but as things are with the current drop rate, I would not trade it down right away until we actually get the math on that and get some more detail on it. We're also going to get better daily bonus rewards, we're going to get a higher drop rate for insignias, and a lot of the obstacles that made these quests kind of challenging and annoying are going to be removed. In Shadow IO, there are going to be fewer panels with poisonous spikes. In Light IO, they're going to remove the rocks in the center of the map, which make it hard to dodge the blindness-inducing moves. And in Water IO, they're going to remove the logs, which have really bad collision detection, and your AI could just end up in auto battle stuck running into a log because they don't realize that they've collided with a log and that they need to go around it. So yeah, that was kind of annoying for auto battle. People jokingly referred to log res as when you put shapeshift prep on all your units and have a shapeshift prep helper. Since shapeshift prep does apply from the helper to your team, that would let you dragon immediately and destroy all the logs. So that was kind of a cheap way to auto battle it a little easier without getting stuck on a log, and that was kind of like log res, but now we don't have to worry about that. Those dreaded logs are finally being removed, and hopefully this still makes the fights challenging and fun enough for newer players, but as they say, with more advanced dragon tiles available and void battles available, it's probably about time that Imperial Onslaught gets a change like this and that we get better drops for all of these insignias and coins, especially if we're expected to level up our dojos to 35. It was already very hard to reach 30, and honestly, I've only done it on 2 of my dojos, my bow dojos, so it's going to take some time to actually get to 35. Even to get to 30 for all your dojos is a pretty big accomplishment. Besides that, we get a few other changes. Some changes regarding iPhone 6 and the maximum resolution. I really hope this is to fix some of the issues with iPhone 6 that have persisted for multiple months now, with iPhone 6 users experiencing a lot of crashing. I think it hit its peak and it was at its worst during the Easter facility event, the Master Challenge battle for that. A lot of people were not able to play the game when a version update happened that added dual worm prints. I think that was around the time that happened, and it was never really addressed fully, so hopefully this is the bug fix that we have been waiting on for iPhone 6 users. Besides that, there are some nice little UI changes for contacting support. The description for text skills, which increase skill damage, is going to change. And the Dragonule Blessing icon is going to change. There's other UI adjustments. And there are some bug fixes for bugs that had persisted for a while. But yeah, that's pretty much it for version 1.9. I definitely think the biggest mysteries are going to remain a mystery until we actually get Chapter 9 on July 15th, and find out more about what these augments are, how frequently they drop, if these increased stats are just going to break the game. I know for some modes, like High Midgard Sormer, that are already so much easier than they were in the past, with 50 extra stats on your character, on your Wyrmprint, and then on your weapons, your dragons, I mean, you are already looking at a ton of extra stats if these are really widely available for any character in your roster. And if they're not, well, we're going to have to make some tough decisions about whether to use these on meta units, favorite units, meta Wyrmprints. How we're going to actually allocate these is going to be very interesting. So I'm kind of looking forward to it now that I talk about it more. It may not be what I had completely hoped for, but it's possible bigger updates like that are being saved for the anniversary, since that's not too far off now. We're almost in September when the game came out. We basically have a few more months to go, and then we'll see what the game has in store and what it really plans to do going into its second year. That's going to do it once again, though, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this update in the comments below. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you next time.